Hello, friends. Today is the 4th of May, 2014, and I'd like to begin a series discussing the Egoic Lotus, which is that structure upon the higher mental plane, the higher three subplanes of the mental plane, which we see here portrayed, here depicted. It is something which the higher clairvoyants do see, higher clairvoyants such as Master D.K. and other initiates of his caliber, and see with accuracy. And he has reported to us what is there to be seen in terms of the structure and dynamics, an amazing display which eventually is established as the higher levels of human evolution are reached. Maybe more importantly, he has established the meaning of that which is to be seen. And we can get some idea, a good idea, about the developmental process of the human being by examining the Egoic Lotus and the different phases through which it passes, perhaps over a 25 million year period. So many human beings individualized on the earth chain more than 21 million years ago have not even fully developed their Egoic Lotus, nor have those individualized on the moon chain long before that, arriving as they did with into the earth chain with some unfoldment of the petals or potencies of the Egoic Lotus. So it's not something that we just hope to see with wonder one day. We will, of course, but it's something we hope to understand. And we hope to understand the processes through which we may be moving, the developmental processes occurring right now in our life. Each of us is in process of unfolding this lotus, which contains the harvested qualities of our life within the lower three worlds. There's nothing bad within the lotus, no negative qualities, only positive qualities. There are, however, deficiencies within the lotus, and let's say blank areas, or areas where quality and capacity has not yet been filled in by the struggle in the lower worlds to achieve that quality or those qualities and capacities. So every one of us, if we were to be seen, I mean every one of us below the fourth initiation, and well, let's just say that the great probability is that all who would be listening to this or producing it are below the fourth initiation, that everyone below that initiation is in the process of unfolding these qualities and capacities which are developing on the higher mental plane and are instilled within the lotus, within the higher mental plane, and then serve as centers of activation, once the qualities are created, for life in the lower three worlds. So the more we build our Egoic Lotus, the more we fill in these generic capacities and qualities, the more spiritually we will be able to live our life in the lower worlds, because this is our true treasury, our true repository of spiritual value which stimulates all that we do in the lower worlds and helps us live a less elemental life and a life of realization, first as a soul in incarnation and then as a soul or unit of consciousness upon the higher mental plane. Master DK has given this diagram, and he's also indicated which colors pertain to it. My wife, Tuya, who is artistic in this sense, has filled in these colors. Of course, this is simply a symbol. We realize that according to what Master DK says, the true vision of the Egoic Lotus is tremendously vibrant, scintillating, full of movement, full of radiation, pulsation, sound, and color, in a beautiful combination which displays the stage of development of any human being. So we just simply have a symbol here, and before this, Keith Bailey of the AUM Lodge has done some work on this same type of diagram. The colors, I think, in some cases are a little different, and we've tried to be as faithful as we could be to what Master DK has described. So the color rose is here used instead of the color red as appears in earlier diagrams or earlier illustrations. There are so many secrets hidden in the Egoic Lotus. Even if we don't see it with our inner eye, we can imagine it, and we can understand something of the stages of development which occur over the many, many years. Certainly there's no one alive today as a human being, well, I'll say that in a general sense, who has not been undergoing a lotus development for probably 20 million years or 21 million years, very slow at the beginning, and even if we were individualized billions of years ago on the third chain of our Earth scheme, the moon chain, that type of timing is very likely. As a matter of fact, processes move slower there, as they always do with the number 3 compared to the number 2. We're on a chain now, the fourth chain, which is much more resonant to the number 2 than the previous chain, and the speed of development increases from the 3 to the 2 to the 1. So if individualization occurred on the moon chain, and we were working at the development of this lotus without the aid of a solar angel, and that is apparently the case because the intervention of the solar angels pertains to this chain and not to the previous chain, well then the process was even slower. So what I'm trying to say is that we've been at work on this egoic development for a very long time, and now that period of development is reaching near its end. It's the whole process is accelerating. Probably so many of us who are serious students of the great teaching that Master DK has brought forth through Alice Bailey and through the work of HBB, that those of us who are sincere students of that work probably have completed 99% of our lives within the human kingdom, and maybe more. In the beginning, things move very slowly. There's so much we don't know about soul cycles and personality cycles and how long the incarnating human jiva may spend out of incarnation, but we do know that many, many lives or incarnations are relatively inconsequential in terms of the development of quality compared to the later lives when development is consciously undertaken. And from the time we're approaching the first initiation, well, there have probably been thousands of incarnations, and maybe from the first initiation onward, there may be only 30 remaining. That's a symbolic number, of course, or 33 remaining. And I suppose people can undertake their development towards mastership in a shorter time than that, if they are willing, or perhaps a little bit longer. But as you can see the proportion there, let's say you've had 3,000 lives, which is a humble estimate, probably many more, and you compare 30 to 3,000, you're coming up with 1/100th. 1/100th. In other words, only 1/100th of your lives remain, and that's a very short time. 30 lives can be lived in a couple or three precessional ages: the age of Aquarius and of Capricorn, maybe into Sagittarius. By that time, serious students of this teaching certainly should have entered the stage of mastership, the fifth initiation. The fourth and fifth initiations, we're told, can be taken in the same life. They were not in the case of the Master Jesus. He was crucified and took the fourth initiation, but then shortly afterwards took over the body of his disciple, who was even alive at the time that he was alive as Jesus, and then took in that body the fifth initiation. So let's just say that once we reach the period of the first initiation, although many arduous lives lie ahead of us, in terms of time as human beings count time, the great majority of time has been passed in previous development. And the petals of the Egoic Lotus are rapidly unfolding. Well, just a few generalities here about the Egoic Lotus. These petals are vortices of energy, scintillating displays in color and in sound of spiritual qualities. We notice that there are 9 petals in 3 circles, or tiers. You know, the outer tier, the first, second, and third. The middle tier, the fourth, fifth, and sixth. The inner tier, but not the inmost tier, inner tier, 7, 8, and 9, apparently going in a reversed direction. And that's another possible secret here of the structure of the Egoic Lotus. Interesting how, interesting how the numbering here shows a clockwise rotation from the first to the second to the third, and a clockwise rotation from the fourth to the fifth to the sixth. And these are the densely physical, etheric, and astral aspects of man are implicated here. Okay, a little pause as network connection can be disrupted. So the first 2 tiers are the irrational aspect of man. They are not yet involving the mind. But according to the way these petals are laid out, and my wife Tuya discovered this, at least in our circle, notice that there's a kind of a touching of the different planes. The knowledge petals seem to touch the third level, the love petals the second, and the sacrifice petals the highest or first level. Here again, the knowledge petals touch the lowest plane. This is close. We could draw it somewhat differently. The love petal of the love tier or circle touches, it looks like the highest plane, but it can be drawn on the second plane, and if it were just somewhat rotated, and the knowledge petal of the love tier is definitely touching the highest level. And so it is with petals 7, 8, and 9. However, let's see, I think it's drawn here. Well, let us say it's drawn here in such a way that there is apparently a reverse rotation. We do know that reversal of rotation does occur. Whether it occurs in the sacrifice petals or whether we have to wait until we get into what's called the synthesis petals, that still remains to be seen. What we have here, these are called the knowledge tier, and they relate to what is called the hall of ignorance, which is the acquiring of basic knowledge in the three lower worlds, and especially in the lowest world of the physical plane, the etheric physical plane, and especially the physical plane. Then we have the love tier that relates to astral development. But it also relates, while it does relate to the astral body, there is also a higher type of development that occurs with it, through which the pairs of opposites are introduced to the consciousness of man. And by the pairs of opposites, I mean largely the soul, the personality, and the soul. In the Hall of Ignorance, while the first three petals are unfolding, the man can be very intelligent in a worldly sense, but has no real notion of a higher or an inner self. When we reach development in the astral, the petals correlate with the astral plane, but also influenced by planes higher than that, for instance, the Buddhic plane, then the man begins to be aware of this higher center, and a certain sensing of duality concerning his nature sets in. By the time we reach the development of the sacrifice petals, we are into the process of initiation, technically understood. And then the soul, or the higher self, or the higher power, whatever people may want to call it, the inner God, is certainly an established reality in the consciousness of the individual, and his attention is now turned to the development of that higher of the pairs of opposites, and seeing to the possibility that its energy can and will permeate the lower life. We're just looking at the basics here of the structure. The petals of knowledge, 1, 2, 3, given in the hall of ignorance, or unfolding in the hall of ignorance. The petals 4, 5, and 6, unfolding in what is called the hall of learning, and correlated closely with the development of the astral body. I mean, the astral body is existent from the very beginning, but its higher form of development occurs obviously later in the evolutionary process. And then these petals of sacrifice, 7, 8, and 9. So the petals of sacrifice are concerning entry into the hall of wisdom, which is really occurring at the time of the first initiation. And this is the tier or circle or wheel of petals that allows the human being, when this wheel is unfolded, to enter the fifth kingdom of nature, or the kingdom of souls. Meanwhile, as all this is happening, these petals that are called the synthesis petals are unfolding, and a great unification of knowledge and quality is occurring as they unfold, and one of them begins its unfoldment at each of the first three initiations, and by the time the fourth initiation is taken, they are completely unfolded. At the very center of the lotus is what's called the central fire, or the jewel in the lotus. It's considered to be a 7-faceted jewel, but has 8 radiations, which can be discussed later as we come to it. Perhaps all of these, I'm not sure whether these numbers are actually counted. Let's just see, if I start here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Well, that's excellent. There are 24 of these spikes or mountains or indications of potency, and that fits very well with the central fire, because the number of Shambhala is 24, and at the jewel in the lotus, Shambhala is represented. Shambhala is the home of the monad, or our true spirit in being, and its number is 24 or 6, and its location, at least on the cosmic physical plane, is on the 6th plane, counting from below. So the number 24 is fitting. We'll have to see whether Master DK actually drew this out, or whether it has been put in some other way. We would go to a treatise on cosmic fire, and let's see, treatise on cosmic fire, and we'll give it a try and say chart number 9. And there's only one of those. So here, yeah, okay, well, we do seem to have this, and I'm wondering if we can make it any bigger. There are a number of different points represented therein, and I suppose that these little squares are those potencies that are represented in the other diagrams. It's very hard to see otherwise. I don't think we are able to enlarge this. There appears to have been a mistake in the transfer of this lotus to the CD-ROM, in as much as the petals that are indicated as knowledge petals should be on the outer tier, and the love petals should be on the inner tier. And I believe that mistake is not made in the book. From the way this diagram looks, we would continue the counter. We would continue the. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yes, this should be actually. How do we go here? 1, 2. That's correct. 1, 2, and 3. Love petals touching there. Knowledge petals touching there. Yes, all of this works out correctly. And the sacrifice petals also would be now rotating in a counterclockwise manner. I think there's been an error in some of the other renderings, and we'll have to check that out. But these operate, let's say the knowledge petals operate in a clockwise manner. The love petals, even though they're in the wrong place, operate also in a clockwise manner, but the sacrifice petals rotate in a counterclockwise manner. And that is in other words, it goes like this. It goes knowledge, love, sacrifice, knowledge, sacrifice, love, sacrifice, sacrifice, and we're going in the direction of the zodiac. So that's what this diagram seems to show us. Well, I think I may have made my point. I discovered that there was a corrected version of this lotus, and I guess the point has been made. Here is the corrected version, and it does begin with 7, goes to 8, and then goes to 9. The 8 should not be there as in the previous diagram. This is the corrected one. So that calls to our attention that there is a counterclockwise rotation here. And when we looked at the Tibetan's diagram here, we saw that the love petal did touch here, not on the higher plane. So love for the third level, love for the second level, love for the first level, yes. And here we have the same. Love for the third level, love for the second level, love for the third level, knowledge for the first level, and here this should be touching right there on the love area, which it could be drawn in that way and should be drawn in that way. Okay, well, from now on, obviously, we will use this corrected version, my lesson there. So, in general, let's just say that these three tiers of petals relate to the unfoldment of the man throughout his long history in the fourth human kingdom. He's still a member of the fourth human kingdom while these petals are unfolding, and even while the synthesis petals are unfolding, he's a member of the fourth kingdom. He is in transition, however, into the fifth kingdom from the time the sacrifice petals are unfolding. And when the fifth and the sixth petals have completely unfolded, he has entered the fifth kingdom, the kingdom of souls, but we can say that he's not a true member of that fifth kingdom until he stands as a master at the fifth degree. However, he is, should we say, a strong participant, even if not a full member. He still has his human aspects when he's taking the fourth initiation. By the time the Egoic Lotus is destroyed, those human aspects had been destroyed as well, and he is rapidly entering the fifth kingdom of nature, in which he is going to stand as a master at the fifth degree. So it's going to be our task here to examine many, many things and see if we can weave together this picture of the unfoldment of the human being by consulting the various stages, colors, qualities, astrological and ray qualities which pertain to the Egoic Lotus at those different stages of unfoldment. Here, this is kind of interesting, the way it's been drawn, and I think very beautifully. We have an 8-pointed star here in the center of the lotus. And there are these 24 around it, which is the number of Shambhala. So the inner work has been amplified. And this star we might consider to be the influence of Sirius. Mercury is said to be Sirius is said to be the star of Mercury. And that's kind of interesting. Mercury and Sirius are closely allied. Let me just check out that reference for sure, because I want to give it to you correctly. I know the two are together, and it's in Esoteric Astrology. It's volume 3, and Sirius, Mercury, star. All right, we'll see how this works. And it's going to come right in here. Sirius we call the dog star. It was the star of Mercury, or Buddha, called the great instructor of mankind. So there is somehow at the very heart of this lotus, this representation of Sirius. Also there is the representation, the way it's been drawn here at least, of the cardinal cross and of the fixed cross, and therefore of the 8 particular power points which we are going to find in this central fire. We do know that once all 9 petals are unfolded, the man has definitely entered upon the Syrian path of initiation in such a way that he cannot and will not turn back. Before that occasion, or at least before the midway point between the second and third initiation, it is possible to turn back and veer off onto the path of form. But once all 9 petals are unfolded, and indeed from the time, all 9 petals unfolded completely, the man is solidly in the Syrian regime of initiation, and then is of great benefit to the planetary logos. This does not necessarily mean that he will take the path to Sirius for training as a solar angel once he becomes a 6th degree initiate, but it does mean that all of the benefits of the Sirian system of initiation, which go on to the 6th and the 7th and beyond those initiations, are the path that he will follow in taking initiations. Let's say up to the 6th initiation, the Sirian system of initiation prevails. After the 6th degree, then the human monad can be, so to speak, outward bound to the usual 7 types of destinations along 7 cosmic paths, or even these days we are told that 2 additional cosmic paths on the way of higher evolution are added, and so the monad, the liberated monad, can now have a 9-fold choice. Well, how am I going to approach this? I've already managed to make one serious mistake, but okay, you know, you can see that I corrected that, and you can see why the correction was necessary. If, in the earlier diagram, this was the 8th petal, and this was the 7th, 7, 8, 9, they would all continue to revolve in the clockwise direction. But no, in fact, the 7th petal touches the 3rd level. There's a petal touching the love level, which means that it should be the 8th, and the one touching the 1st level of the highest subplane of the mental plane should be the 9th. So there is a reversal of rotation, and it's now rotating with the clockwise wheel, which is the wheel of the developing, truly developing soul. That is an example of what we would call the reversal of the wheel. The direction put here of the sacrifice petals and the way they progress one to another indicates a significant reversal of the wheel, which means that the man is really progressing along the right-hand path, unless there is one of those unexpected deviations, which are possible because, after all, man does have free will. But once the 8th petal is mostly unfolded and the 9th petal partially unfolded, it is not likely, or maybe even impossible, that the man will deviate, although we are told strangely that there are some black magicians who actually focus on the causal level, and they are immensely powerful. But it is certainly not the usual. Once the midway point has been reached, the man is free from the lower tendencies. The wheel is truly reversed, and in all likelihood he will continue along the path of Sirian unfoldment, the path of Sirian initiation. All right, what I'm going to do, well, let's see. I want to show you something here. I've got so many different, too many different files here, but I will do my best to show you something which I think is of interest. And this would be, all of these files are waiting to come up. And let's see, 5 groups, astrological sign, inhibition of the planets, human groups, Egoic Lotus table of reference. This is it. This is my table of references. Now, I've been teaching this subject for a long time, which doesn't mean I know all that much about it, but I know something. I've taught this in many PhD classes and in esoteric psychology classes at the end. And what I've discovered is that in order to really understand the unfoldment of the Egoic Lotus, a number of different references are required. And then they can all be brought together, to supplement our knowledge of the Egoic Lotus. So these are the references that I'm going to want to be discussing with you. And in order to be as clear as possible, once we begin discussing the lotus, I will go over these references first, so you have, or at least quite a few of them. So you have in your mind, when we put all the information together, what has gone before. There are various books which have these, and I'm probably going to go through, if not all, then quite a number, so that we have the foundation for bringing together a synthesis of understanding regarding the development of each petal. In a way, what we are attempting is nothing less than to trace human evolution from the very beginning, talking about the energies which are involved, the types of experiences which promote those energies. It's a vast subject. So all the ray energies, all the astrological energies, the energies of the planets, all that, they're involved in every petal, the unfoldment of every petal. And remember, that first petal unfolding can take millions of years. And over millions of years, the human being is bound to be born in every sign, with every sign rising. So somehow all of those astrological factors and the various ray factors will be contributing to the unfoldment of every petal. But I will emphasize certain rays, certain signs of the zodiac, certain planets in relation to particular petals. And, you'll get a very intricate idea of how this all works, but in terms of the synthesis and coming to simplicity, this will require some time. So we're going to look at what's called the stages of adaptation from Esoteric Psychology I, and we're going to look at the human groups or types of souls. As a matter of fact, I'd almost rather look at that first and the stages of adaptation next. So maybe I'll change this a little bit here and see if stages of adaptation, let's call this, okay, stages of adaptation, human groups. I'll do it this way. I'll copy these, put this in, and the human groups will go up here, because I think that's maybe a better place to start. And actually, yeah, I think it is. We're going to look at energy transferences within the human body. We're going to look at the stages by which the soul appropriates the different vehicles. Inevitably, we will discuss different types of egoic lotuses, because DK has some names for them, and it helps us understand how they are classified in the inner karmic departments when they are being considered. So the names of those, as they are given in different places, will also, I guess this is somewhat in alphabetical order, maybe we'll take it that way, the monadic types. Now, I certainly don't have the last word on these types, but they have different names, and these names can tell us something about the egoic lotuses representing these types. We'll look at the qualities of the petals of the egoic lotus in detail. I have a very large document which has been gathered over many years, waiting for some sort of synthesis. It usually takes days to go through in an esoteric psychology class or a cosmic fire class, and we will go through it meticulously. We'll talk about the organization of the tiers of petals in the three halls. Inevitably, since we are discussing the stages of evolution of the human being according to the degree of unfoldment of the petals, we'll talk about initiations and which planets are involved, and initiations and which signs are involved. I think we can find that while certain signs, like let's say Capricorn, represent the third initiation generically and Scorpio the second, we'll find that any signs of the zodiac can contribute to the completion of an initiatory phase. And I'll try to discuss how that is done. The crises of the soul will be discussed, and we will see that as certain petals unfold, crises will come with them. And perhaps if you are undergoing a particular crisis at this time, it is an indication that you are in that phase of life when the petal and the crisis coincide, and you'll understand what petals may be unfolding by the nature of the crisis. The qualities of the heart are valuable. There are 11 qualities and maybe one synthetic quality. They will talk about the higher development of love in relation to the Egoic Lotus. Different sorts of triangles will be studied from esoteric astrology and also from cosmic fire. The soul laws begin to apply when the person begins to enter the fifth kingdom of nature. That is when the sacrifice tier is being stimulated and the love tier is reaching its full unfoldment. So we'll look at soul laws and how they relate to the Egoic Lotus. The initiations and the rays tell us which rays are dominant at particular initiations, and so according to the unfoldment of different petals, which indicate different initiations, we'll see that different rays are implicated. I know it all sounds like a lot of, meticulous entirety, or maybe as we joke who are on that ray, the ray of ridiculous entirety, all right? But, although it sounds like a lot of detail in the beginning, it all starts to come together and to fuse and blend and merge and to be intuitively accessible. So it will just require some patience on your part. The different accomplishments of the initiations and how they relate to the petals. The logoi and the initiations, which particular planetary logoi are involved in them. The centers unfolding in relation to discipleship and what centers we can expect to see unfolding when different petals are unfolding, the 7 laws of the solar system, and the types of souls. And it looks like maybe we have that down twice. Looks like we do, but at least TCF 855 is an amplification on that. So we will examine all this closely. I'd like to be able to say that all of this will be organized in a perfectly systematic manner, in a linear fashion, so that the concrete mind can assimilate it with ease. But I can't really promise that. I can only promise to the attentive viewer and listener that the interrelations between all these the interrelations between all these factors will stand out in a way perhaps clearer to the mind and consciousness than they were before the study, the listening, the viewing. My purpose is always to somehow illustrate the science of relations, which I think is such a fundamental science and underlies all multiplicity in our cosmos. All is related to all, each to all to each, everything to everything else. So in this amazing web of interrelationships, we actually have an underlying oneness, and to the extent that these relationships can be discussed clearly, they may promote in us as students a growing sense of the unity of everything, and we may be able to find our way from any point in the network of relationships to any other point by clear and logical means. So we will perhaps come closer to understanding how every specific thing is related to every other specific thing and to the whole in general. Now, there's more, of course, but this is really quite enough to get started. So, yeah, my first work here will be to look at certain references and give us the foundation we need to go into the Egoic Lotus. Now, what I'm finally going to do when it's all, let's see, more or less over here, low, medium, and high types of souls. Let's see if I can find this. Yeah, so what I'm finally going to do, and I've had help with this, there's been a lot of data here, and B.L. Allison has helped me collect this. I'm going to go to a large table, and this table will assume the role of helping us understand the synthesis of the many factors. So we'll move along in such a way here that many factors are brought together, and hopefully I'll be sufficiently organized here to be able to help us get that synthetic picture, which is somewhat related to what work within the synthesis petals would help us do. We are told by Master Decay that a huge amount of learning occurs between the third and fourth initiation. Maybe by looking at this, we can prepare ourselves somewhat for that time when we will have to absorb a great deal of knowledge in a synthetic manner. At first it looks like so many parts and pieces, but eventually it's going to look like many logically, meaningfully interrelated items, which will reveal a synthetic wholeness finally. So here we are with the Egoic Lotus, with the different permanent atoms that are related to it. What you see here basically, you see the Egoic Lotus, and then you see the bypass of the Egoic Lotus along the Antakarana. Really, the Antakarana is a triangle, and its first approach is from the mental unit on the fourth subplane of the mental plane to the Egoic Lotus itself, and its sort of second approach is towards the monastic permanent atom from the lotus itself. For the Antakarana that we study is a bypass of the Egoic Lotus. The other two points of the triangle involve the Egoic Lotus, but our method of building the Antakarana is via projection from the mental unit on the fourth subplane of the mental plane to the monastic permanent atom at the height of the abstract mind. And that is that projection occurring after we have absorbed into the mental unit quite a bit of the influence of the Egoic Lotus. So we'll be referring frequently to this particular diagram. One day, I have artist friends who are already working on trying to animate this thing and make it stand out in a form truer to its probable inner appearance. And one day it will be a holographic image as well, and all the vortices will be discovered. But for right now, we have it pretty much in 2 dimensions and with flat colors and in a state of non-rotation, but we can imagine what it would be like in the inner levels, its actual appearance. The purpose of all this is to gain a real understanding of where we stand on the path, what we are doing, what energies we are using, what unfoldment we may be passing through, what we have to do to reach our next unfoldment and make ourselves more worthy of cooperation with the spiritual hierarchy. So the purpose of all this is ultimately practical. We get a sense of history, We take a look at the human family and where the different members of the human family may be standing with respect to this process, how we can perhaps help some with respect to this process, how we can help each other with respect to the unfoldment process, and perhaps through visualization and knowledge of the inner meaning, the actual vision of the Egoic Lotus will begin to come to us. It is inevitable, of course. But right now, just the way we prepare for our knowledge of our ability as white magicians, we prepare by doing the academic work. So here also we will prepare by doing some meticulous academic work, and as it all comes together, I think that what the Egoic Lotus is will really begin to live in our consciousness, and perhaps fleeting glimpses of its actuality, and certainly the sense of what it is will live within us. I mean, you know, here we are. When we look at each other, we may see the form and we may see the personality at work, but behind this, and being a far truer and more real self, is this unfolding, vibrating, scintillating, pulsating lotus. That's a much more real self, not the ultimate, but a much more real self than the person we seem to see. And so if we can somehow begin to look at each other in a different way and see through the personality and beyond to the unfolding lotus and get such a sense of its reality that when we're dealing with another, we're dealing more with this inner vibrant structure on the higher mental plane, then we will have advanced in our ability to deal with each other, to relate to each other, to understand each other. Well, okay, friends. You know, I'm one of those Aries people. I try never to go back. And, of course, I want to go back. I want to make that correction. I want to, you know, I want to put this in place of the other one that had 8 here and 7 here. But we're learning together, so I assume you'll pardon me for using the wrong illustration and then wondering about it. Maybe we all learn something in the process. And now I will go on and begin to lay the foundation by consulting different things which Master DK has said and which we are going to attempt to correlate as we bring together all of the knowledge in some sort of final synthesis. I don't know how long from now. I maybe have a month to do this, and I'll see what is possible to accomplish. So we're almost at the 1 hour point, but I think I'm going to go on and make this a 2-hour program and just get started. So in just a moment, I will do exactly that. Okay. Whoop. Now I will go ahead and faced with so much material here, but we're going to begin with the 5 groups of souls. We're going to begin in Esoteric Psychology Volume 2. And this is what I consider to be background material. Some of it is straightforward. Whoop. All right. I seem to be having a few of these Mercury retrograde issues here, and there is no Mercury retrograde. So I was a bit in the distance, but now the headset is on me again, and I trust that some friendly editor at some time will get rid of the stuff that is unnecessary. So we begin with Esoteric Psychology Volume 2 with the 5 groups of souls. And there are really many groups of souls, but DK is dividing them into 5 for useful purposes. And I'll fill in a few things here and then move into other texts where I've already made comments. Okay, we now begin our study of the 5 groups of souls For purposes of classification and comparison, we can divide our Earth humanity into the following groups. And notice he talks about Earth humanity here, but he doesn't mean necessarily humanity that originated on the Earth scheme, or in the Earth chain, rather, in the Earth chain. In fact, sometimes the word Earth humanity relates precisely to those who individualized on our globe and in the Earth chain, but here he is talking about those who are currently on our planet, whatever their origin might have been. So the Lemurian egos are here, and he calls these our true Earth humanity, and they individualized some, what can we say, 21 million years ago. About 21 million years ago. That doesn't mean they knew they were human beings at that time, but that was when the spark of mind was implanted in animal man of our particular chain. Egos which came in on Atlantis, and the early Atlantean times, early Atlantean times were about 12 million years ago, according to decay. So there can have been quite a space of time between the entry of the true Earth humanity, the Lemurian egos, and egos which came in Atlantis. And there are different ray likelihoods, possibilities with these different types of egos. Now, I must say that when he uses the word egos, we cannot think only of souls. We actually have to think of monads who individualized. And in a certain sense, the word ego can stand for the monad. The shape of the egoic body on the higher mental plane is egg-shaped and oval-shaped, and or at least in many instances that, or spherical. And I have the sense that there is something called the monadic egg. Let's see if DK uses that term in any place. I will go over it here. Monadic egg? Well, there are several. So yes, the sphere of manifestation, the monadic egg. Okay, and the egg, of course, we know is oval. The monadic egg, or auric egg, the causal body, monadic heart center, not there so much. And let's see if we have it over here. Monadic auric egg, indeed we do. And maybe one more, let's try it. And monadic auric egg. Okay, so we get the idea that the ego, so to speak, exists on a monadic level as well as on the what we call the soul level. So we are actually talking about the entrance of certain types of monads who are not yet possessed of causal bodies, but who are creating causal bodies either by natural processes or with the help of the solar angels when this type of individualization occurred in our particular chain. And when I speak of the chain, what I would like to do, I would like to show you something that is of value, and you've seen it many times, of course, but here it is. This is the picture of the Earth scheme. I think I can come to a better one that Tuya has done here. Coming along. Okay, it's coming. There it is. Okay. So here is the Earth scheme. And here are the 7 major chakras of the Earth scheme, which are known as chains, and our chain is the 4th. So originally the third chain, now called the Saturn chain, was the moon chain. There's a mystery there in the connection of Saturn and the moon. One wonders whether that moon chain has not been regenerated in some manner. But it was in those earlier days the third chain, the moon chain, and the life was transferred to our fourth chain when the progress on the moon chain was interrupted. Anyway, here are the depictions of these various chains and some significant geometry. And in my commentaries, which are written commentaries and not spoken commentaries, I do get into that and discuss their shapes. So you can find them on Makara, all right? So going back then, we also have the moon chain egos, and they came from the moon chain, which was in this place in those days, the third chain. However, the Saturn chain has taken the place of the moon chain. We're not told the particular method, but it seems that the moon chain logos was transferred to the fourth chain and is participating in the development of those lives which it was originally supervising on its own chain, is participating with the fourth chain lord, the fourth chain lord, in the supervision of development on the fourth chain, which now contains moon chain egos as well. Advanced human beings being very likely among those moon chain egos. Egos from other planets. Now, the moon chain egos did come in with some petal development. The egos which came in Atlantis were fresh, newly made egos, and the egos coming in on the Morya were also fresh and, as it were, newly made. But with the egos from the moon chain, 1, 2, 3, who knows, maybe more petals were unfolded. If the Buddha was a moon chain ego, which we are told he was, and he was on the verge of taking the third initiation in the moon chain, but it couldn't be done at that time, we are told, then he had virtually 9 petals unfolded when he came in. Well, maybe, yeah, if he was on the verge of taking the third initiation then, or certainly a significant number of petals unfolded. It takes 9 petals to make the third degree initiate. So these are egos unfolded in various degrees, egoic lotuses with anywhere from 1 to how many petals open. Egos from other planets, particularly Venus and Jupiter, Mercury and Vulcan, and maybe others, but those are ones that are mentioned, and they may come in with petal unfoldment to a certain degree, and some of them perhaps do not come in with petal unfoldment, but they are monads that are transferred into our planetary scheme, and then they undergo Egoic Lotus development here in our scheme and chain. So we'll have to look carefully there whether petals are unfolded or not, or whether both can be the case, that they can come in as monads and individualize on our particular chain, or whether they come in with some petals unfolded. Rare and advanced egos awaiting incarnation until the time is propitious. So he has divided our Earth humanity, those who are undergoing development on our Earth, into 5 categories. Those that came in from the moon chain, of which there are really quite a few among the advanced humanity, and they have some petal a development, whether a lesser amount or a greater amount. Those that came in Lemuria and who individualized in that root race some 21 million years ago or so. Those who came in later, maybe 8 or 9 million years later in early Atlantean times, and obviously had the birthing of their egoic lotus right here on our planet in our chain. And then other rarer types, especially the rare ones are the advanced egos, but there may have been quite a number from Venus, Jupiter coming in either as monads or with some petal development, and from Vulcan, definitely with petal development, and maybe from Mercury with petal development. Those are the ones, did I say Venus, Jupiter? Yes, Vulcan and Mercury. Those are the ones of which I'm aware. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if there are Martian egos as well, because there do seem to be a certain number of human beings who are very connected with that planet, and they may be the ones who have to go back to that planet for further instruction when the Judgment Day occurs in the next round, probably of our chain, millions of years ahead. All right, so those are the divisions, and when we're talking about the unfoldment of the egoic lotus, we want to have these divisions in mind. Naturally, some people will be further ahead than others in their petal unfoldment. Stimulation, organization, opening, unfoldment. These are different words that are used for different stages of the process. It will be expected that the moon chain egos, or monads, will have a greater degree of petal unfoldment in general than will the earth chain egos. Either the Lemurian, and especially the Atlantean, probably the Atlantean are the furthest behind. They contained quite a few first-ray monads and will undergo their fuller development in the next solar system. At least that's what DK seems to be saying. So when you look at Earth chain humanity in general, those who actually individualized on our planet and in our Earth chain, the egoic development will be generally less, the petals unfolded generally less, though some fast-moving Earth chain humanity is already a part of the hierarchy, which means they've already destroyed their causal body, which is amazing. And foremost among Earth chain humanity is the Christ, whose rapidity of unfoldment is unparalleled, we are told. So just because we see a certain amount of unfoldment does not mean that we can necessarily determine which chain has been the scene of individualization for that type of ego. Probably there are other indicators which would tell the master when he looks at it, but the number of petals unfolded actually cannot tell that, except that the majority of petals, a greater number of petals unfolded will be found in the moon chain types generically or generally than in the earth chain types. So let's see here. I just want to, because there are places that I want to switch to for other notes that I have. So we enter therefore upon a brief consideration of a subject that, to the ordinary psychologist, who's dealing mostly with the personality, wouldn't we say, and student who is not familiar with the occult teaching and terms, will sound fanciful and unintelligent, as if we are making huge, fanciful assumptions. The reason for this is that we are considering the origin of the souls, or egoic units, higher ego, which are expressing themselves through human beings, members of the fourth kingdom. Of the selves, now when we look at selves, a monad is a, I think I better bring this to the point where I can actually use my autocorrect. Finally figured out how to do that. A monad is a real self. So when we use the term self, it's not just the souls, not just the personality, it is the deeper being, the deeper unit. So the reason for this is that we are considering the origin of the souls which are expressing themselves through human beings. Notice he really differentiates. A human being seems in this case to be more the personality, although the members of the fourth or human creative hierarchy are monads and have the word human attached to them. So we're considering their origin, expressing themselves through personalities or selves who are functioning through form and are therefore intangible and, scientifically speaking, non-provable. So the real self is presently non-provable because, I see what my problem is. Okay, just, I won't worry about stopping. I see what the problem is, and it's because this has to be copied when we're dealing with a special kind of word replacement. Okay, hopefully this will work now. Okay, so these are not provable. Real selves, real units of being consciousness are not provable. They can only be inferred by those who can accept the inference, because I suppose of their training and their thinking, who can accept inference, deduction, and conclusions, which cannot be demonstrated, and I think I would like to say yet be demonstrated, with the type of human equipment now in use, and I think we can say this will improve. Modern psychology, speaking generally, regards the soul in one or another of the following ways, either as non-existent, the only obvious and provable thing being the intelligent mechanism. The personality is provable because seen and experienced, and the soul, or ego, is not provable because not seen and not experienced by many. At least the majority of human beings are not yet in a position that they experience the soul, at least not in a conscious and easily recognizable way. So modern psychology considers the soul maybe non-existent, or as being the sum total of conscious reactions of the cells of the body, the sentiency of the organism, in other words. So again, a lower definition. A lower definition. So as if matter produced sentiency, which we know is the reverse of the occult truth. So, where does the ability to feel and so forth come from? It's thought to be a byproduct of our material construction, and in this case the tail is wagging the dog. Or also the soul, by modern psychology, well, there are, since this book was written, a number of developments in the field of psychology which come closer to considering the soul or transpersonal self as a gradually evolving self conveying life and, as time elapses, awareness. It is regarded as being conditioned by the body and as a product of the evolution of that body during the ages. It does not, however, exist in the lower types of human beings, and it possibly possesses immortality, but that is not provable and may not be posited as a fact. So this is a sort of an indeterminate position that modern psychology takes. Awareness conditioned by the body. Well, there are other factors which condition. Other factors which condition are not recognized. Okay, see not recognized. Product of evolution, and the lower types of human beings do not possess this. Of course, this is incorrect. All human beings necessarily possess soul, but of course it's not so easily demonstrable in those who have not had sufficient number of incarnations. And finally, as a definite self and entity informing a body, functioning at various levels of human consciousness here being the filter. So human consciousness is like a filter upon the qualities of the soul. And having continuity, immortality, and potentiality, and let us say that this is the highest type of definition from the most advanced type of modern psychology, of which esoteric psychology might be considered to be the highest example. How many esoteric psychologists are there really? Well, DK would have the number, I suppose, but not so many compared to those who practice psychology in relation to the personal psyche and not to the transpersonal psyche. Okay. So, the occult teaching accepts all these hypotheses as correct, but as relative in time and space, and having reference to different forms of divine life and to differing aspects of these forms. The reason given is not necessarily as the psychologists think, but within an understanding of true esoteric psychology, soul psychology, place is given to all of these other recognitions, and the conclusions that they come to are accounted for within esoteric psychology for different reasons than the ones given. I mean, the soul of the body is not the source of sentiency, and all human beings have souls, even if relatively undeveloped, and the soul certainly is non-provable, but existent, and the intelligent mechanism is obvious and does exist, but it's an aspect of soul projection. So many of the conclusions of the psychologists are clearly correct, but for different reasons. So, it is with the occult teaching, right or wrong, he's cautious not to impose, is he not, that we are at present engaged, and our premises and conclusions can be stated in the following proposition. Every human being, in or out of incarnation, is a fragment of divinity. We might call it an emanation, a divine spark of the one flame, an inseparable fragment, if I may call this by its truer description, an inseparable fragment. I mean, in consciousness there seems to be separation. In actuality, in factuality, there is no separation. And an outpost of divine consciousness in some form, attenuated or fuller, functioning in time and space, that is, in the world of parts and pieces, in the world where sequence is necessary, functioning in time and space for purposes of expression. So this, our premises and conclusions, according to occult teaching regarding psychology, are as follows. So we've read number one. Number two, all these souls, selves, here the word self is being associated with the word soul, but let us remember that monad has soul, which means monad has consciousness, monad has awareness. So the true self is not necessarily the egoic lotus. The true self is indestructible. It is at the heart of the monad, and the egoic lotus we know is destructible, but not the true self which has resided within the central fire of the egoic lotus. So all these souls Selves or human beings are, and notice how he this time puts together the idea of the self and the human being. Earlier he differentiated. The apparent human being is obviously not the true self, but at the very core of the human being is the true self, and that is not the egoic lotus, but is the center of being within the egoic lotus and even within the monadic vehicle, which is destructible. That pure core of being, which is the essential monad, does exist. So there's some overlapping of meaning in these words. We just have to be alert to it. One cannot speak with utter precision and technically all the time, or it would become utterly tedious. So all these souls, selves, or human beings are found, as we have seen, on one or other of the 7 emanations of spiritual energy. Each one of them is related monadically to one of the great 7 ray lords, issuing forth from God. Well, will this be God the solar logos or God the planetary logos? I think, in a way, we should consider it God the solar logos, in which each monad finds its home within the sun. Issuing forth from God at the beginning of an era of creative activity, they return to their emanating source when that particular cycle is brought to a close. And I think here we're talking about the solar logos as the source of emanation of the monads in our solar system. Because, it's very interesting. The monad is that which has its home within the sun. DK tells us this in Initiation, Human and Solar. I think, it's always good to see that. Home, sun. There's only one, so the Son, the Father, and the Thinker on his own plane. The intermediary between that which is of the earthies, which is the personality, and that which finds its home within the sun, and not the outer physical sun, but DK is not specifying here, but still an inner part of the sun. And, ultimately, really, I think the monadic nature of the sun, true being, comes from there, at least those emanations of being which are found in our solar system. So we come forth on 7 emanations. We come forth monadically on 3 emanations, then 7, and then 7 more as souls, and not to forget the triplicity of triads. So there are a number of different ways in which the rays that characterize us come forth and are combined and overlap. So the occult teaching has the following premises. Every human being, let's just kind of put them in these colors. Every human being is a fragment of divinity. All these souls come forth on one or other of the 7 emanations of spiritual energy from our solar logos, and also from other planets where they have a truer home than on our own planet, because our planet is not one of the sacred planets, and our planet does not last throughout the Manvantara, but the monads have existed even before the creation of the earth. And this is a problematic and interesting thought. Have they been within the higher aspect of our planetary logos, having come thence via the sun, or via the inner nature of the sun? Well, these things will be solved in time. In the interim between emanation and reabsorption, and remember, it's monads that are reabsorbed, not souls, because here it is as if okay, I'll just do it this way. It is as if the word soul is being used to indicate monad. So between emanation and reabsorption, the selves emanate from the heart of being. So somehow, well, a soul is a unit of consciousness, and a monad also is a unit of consciousness. It's first a unit of being because you have to exist, you have to be before you can be conscious. At least that is my assumption, and in that I think I differ from maybe some Buddhists, but it seems that being is primary and consciousness is derivative from the state of being. So in the interim between emanation and resorption, these souls pass through various experiences until such a time as they can shine forth in all their exactitude of truth. That's beautifully stated, and either shining forth, let's get that right, within the Egoic Lotus, or within the Temple of Ezekiel. Because as beautiful as the display of the Egoic Lotus has been described by Master Decay, what would we be able to say about the display of the monadic vehicle once it is fully developed and ready for its destruction? At what point, maybe preceding the seventh initiation, or maybe at the seventh initiation, or maybe somewhat beyond it. You cannot take your monadic vehicle onto the cosmic astral plane, and it just depends on when transit to the cosmic astral plane is possible. It does look as if the Christ is able to make his way onto the cosmic astral plane, but I would say that this must be done as an unsheathed monad, or a monad carrying some different kind of sheath. So, okay, these souls pass through all manner of experiences until they can shine forth in all their exactitude of truth, which means, this means their divine name is in expression fully with respect to our cosmic physical plane. So we're not just talking about a fourth degree initiate here, we're talking about something else. Now we come to the different groups of lotuses. Lotuses of revelation, lotuses with perfume, and radiant lotuses. Lotuses wherein the flower is on the point of opening, lotuses of closed and sealed condition, and the colorless lotuses, lotuses in bud. Let's see if I have here some thoughts about this. Not so many. But DK has said more here in different places, so I will use this particular reference to deal with the 5 or the 7 groups of lotuses. All right, so we'll go to this other document where this part of the document we've come to is discussed. And we're in this section where we are dealing with certain premises and conclusions that can be formed and stated with respect to the occult teaching. Okay. So, lotuses of revelation. Well, we're not exactly in order here. We are in descending order, as you see. We're beginning with the high and descending to the lotuses of lesser development. What I presume here is that the lotuses of revelation are those in which the jewel of the lotus is about to be revealed. So what I would say here is that we have taken or are taking the third initiation. And the 9 petals are unfolded, or coming to that point, and the jewel in the lotus will shortly be fully seen. Already the light from the jewel is intense, and thus the possibility of revelation. So these lotuses, there may be other technical names here, but these are very highly developed lotuses. And for a while, as the jewel shines, the synthesis petals are open, and all the other petals are open, all the other 9, and the inner qualities of unity, of synthesis, and of being are being revealed. But I think this starts at the third initiation and goes to the fourth. This is my impression. Starts at the third initiation and goes to the fourth, at which point there is no more lotus to reveal anything. And the revelation has to come in other ways. Revelation will come through the spiritual triad. So that is how that will go. Let's see, types of souls, what I'd like to do here. Okay, so these are, of all the names we have been given, the most advanced lotuses. And when we look at this figure, in which obviously the causal body has not been destroyed, the Egoic Lotus is very much there, we have a lotus of revelation. Now, the rest of us, I think, are going to look to the inner eye, something less than this. So this is a very full development. This is the fully developed Egoic Lotus, and I think we can call it successfully a lotus of revelation. It has to be remembered that there are different types of names associated with the initiations. Now, the initiation, the 5th degree, is called the revelation. The 4th, the crucifixion, and the, no express reveal. That's how it goes. No express reveal. No express reveal, destroy, resurrect. So even though the 5th initiation is called the initiation of revelation, it seems to be associated with a kind of resurrection. Not the resurrection of the 7th degree, although you could start that sequence, no express reveal, destroy, resurrect. You could start that at the 3rd initiation too. And it would be most interesting, but let's just say that the ability to reveal the one, or reveal the monad, is courted or attempted at the 3rd degree. So from the 3rd degree to the 4th degree, the revelation of the central fire of the jewel in the lotus is being attempted. And for those individuals for whom it is possible, they will be called lotuses of revelation. So the 9th petal, minimally, the 9th petal has opened, and so all the 9 are open, although at the beginning of this process of revelation, the inner synthesis petals are not fully open. They will burst open just before the 4th degree and reveal the jewel in the lotus, and that revelation itself will begin the destruction of the causal bodies. So the period of revelation spans approximately a period of the 3rd degree to the 4th degree. Now, the next one, lotuses with perfume, and I would say this correlates with the period between the second degree, and the third degree. Perfume is a very magnetic, attractive substance, and it has to do with this the love petal of the sacrifice tear. So when that petal is almost, well, quite in process of unfoldment, the rod of initiation is applied, however it is applied, and the second degree takes place. The opening of that petal will not be complete until the third, but it's mostly open, and the sixth petal unfolds fully at the second degree. So there is a very strong magnetism created through loving sacrifice. Let's just say the perfume of the individual is demonstrated through loving sacrifice. So we'll get into the different ways in which this sacrifice occurs. The sacrifice of all forever is occurring when the when the ninth petal is completely unfolded, but the eighth petal unfolding will give us that magnetism which occurs when the person is so selfless that they are harmoniously related to the wholeness. Now remember, we'll get into this later, but I can't say everything in order. It's a Scorpio petal. Scorpio brings in the fourth ray of harmony. At the present time, it's the greatest conveyor of the ray of harmony. So a perfume shows a relationship of substance which produces something very attractive. This particular smell or odor is very attractive, and it could not be if disharmony existed. When disharmony exists, you have putrefaction, or you have smells which are not attractive. They can be off-putting, but when a perfect harmony is created, then the attraction occurs. So these lotuses, by their demonstration of sacrifice, are demonstrating a very strong love principle. And the love within them is the perfume within them that attracts all beings towards a state of unity. So I would call this initiates of the second degree on their way to the third degree, or reaching the third degree, at which point they begin to become lotuses of revelation. When it comes to the next petals, radiant lotuses, I would say that these are mainly in their different grades, in different degrees of unfoldment in the long process between the first initiation and the second initiation. These are initiates of the first degree and until the second degree. So the principle of light is often associated with the third ray, and this initiation should be associated with the third ray in one respect, just the way the second with the second ray, and the third initiation with the third ray, with the first ray, but also with the, well, they're all involved. There's a first ray thing that happens at the third degree, but also a third ray and a fifth ray factor is involved. At the second degree, the sixth ray factor is involved, but it is the second initiation and generically connected with the second ray. And the first initiation has to do with the first initiation of the personality. It involves intelligence. Light is considered related particularly to the third and second ray, occasionally to the first, as in the light of life. But this idea of radiant intelligence is starting to come out here at the first degree. So the radiant lotuses are those in whom the seventh petal is unfolding. It will not unfold completely until the third degree is completed, but Sanat Kumara, or not Sanat Kumara, but the Christ directs his energy to this seventh petal and increases the radiance of intelligence. And although that petal is not fully unfolded with the touch of the rod, it is very unfolded. So it's seventh degree work, seventh petal work, and it involves also by resonance the complete unfoldment of the fifth petal. And of course the fifth petal, connected with Leo and with the sun and so forth, gives us the idea of radiance. So our light is shining, and it's always shining through sacrifice. This is the key. Hard to take maybe, but the more we sacrifice, the more our light shines. So we have here the description of the first, second, and third degree, radiant lotuses, lotuses with perfume, and lotuses of revelation. And so many of the students of occultism in the world today find themselves between the first and the second initiation, and they should be, well, let's put it like this: between the first and second initiations, the students should become increasingly radiant lotuses. So we realize by the time the second degree is reached that spiritual intelligence and a mind, how does he describe that? Yeah, there's a special way of describing it. I think spiritual intelligence is one of the ways of doing it. Let's just check that out. Mental, it's mental focus for sure. It's not yet mental polarization. Spiritual intelligence and mental something. Okay. Mind. Let's see if we can find that. Oh, I shouldn't be such a stickler for the references, but, you know, that seems to be... here it is, here it is. Oh, I was very lucky. My first shot in discipleship in the New Age. So, an illumined mind and spiritual intelligence are the definite sign that a man can take the second initiation, whilst spiritual perception or intuitive instinct signifies preparedness for the transfiguration, the third, and spiritual instinct for the first. This is such an important quotation, and I always tell myself I will remember the page, but I don't. Page 267 in Dyna 1. So we can see how radiation would, or radiance would correlate at the second degree with a high degree of the illumined mind and spiritual intelligence, all the way from the first to the second radiant lotuses. So I would say that most of us as occult students or students of occultism are increasingly radiant lotuses. Whether we've made sufficient sacrifices to become lotuses with perfume, okay, that remains to be seen. And to become lotuses of revelation, we must reveal the one, we must reveal the monad, because it's the spirit aspect at the heart of the lotus which is in process of revelation. And maybe there are other names, I say here, that could be given for lotuses in which the sixth petal is partially unfolded or the fifth partially unfolded and so forth. They are not given. They are, let's just say it's possible to have possibly intermediate names for lotuses in various states of unfoldment. Then this probably covers quite a bit. Lotuses wherein the flower is on the point of opening. But which flower? We've already dealt with the interior opening of the sacrifice petals, and that makes a full-fledged third degree initiate. When the second flower is completely opened, you have already the second or first degree initiate, so I don't think that this opening is that. I think it refers to the first opening more. A reference to the first tier of petals opening. Now this is not yet a stage of real initiation, but it's a stage of one of the earlier initiations where something of group consciousness is beginning to unfold. And there is stimulation and organization within the second tier of petals, as DK points out. So these people are emerging from the hall of ignorance into the hall of learning. I believe the flower referred to here is the very first tier of petals. Because if the lotus, well, there are lotuses in various degrees of unfoldment of the second tier, but they are not yet initiates of the first degree unless the second petal is fully opened. And when the third petal of the second tier is fully opened, you have the initiate of the second degree, and there's activity going on with the rod of initiation in the petals of sacrifice. So I do believe here we are talking about emergence out of the hall of ignorance. Now, it's kind of interesting, these other names all seem to refer to more or less the same condition. And maybe for a long time in the early days they are that way. Lotuses of closed and sealed condition. Let's just say maybe we have stimulation and organization, but not unfoldment of the first tier. Lotuses of a closed and sealed condition, and this can go on for a long time. However, well, if we're talking about the entire tier. Now, we're told right now that all human beings have at least one petal unfolded, the first petal, whether it's completely unfolded or mostly unfolded, but anyway, unfolded. So no one alive today as a human being is in category number 5, because this refers more to a state of stimulation before unfoldment. The colorless lotuses, this has to do with the creation of the egoic lotus. But now it has to unfold somewhat, even though there's not much color of quality and capacity built into it. So it's a very early stage, and the lotuses in bud are there from the very beginning. When the monad and solar angels have cooperated in, at least in our chain, with the creation, in the creation of the egoic lotus, it starts out in bud, and there's no unfoldment. So a true lotus in bud, a lotus at the point of individualization. Okay, individualization. How does this spelled? Individualization. I have a little abbreviation for that, which I have managed to forget. So, from the very beginning, 21 million years ago, or however it occurred on the moon chain by a different process, the lotus in bud is the very beginning of the process. The colorless lotuses, not much quality has been built in, and so we would think that although there has been engagement in certain experiences, let's say, not much benefit from those experiences has occurred. But with a lotus of closed and sealed condition, benefit has occurred through stimulation and organization of that lotus. All of this is pretty much under the supervision of the second person of the Trinity, the second Logos. The solar angel is not yet supervising the unfoldment of the lotus, which it does more at the unfoldment of the 5th petal. That's when the solar angel gets involved. So it's interesting what DK has essentially given us here is the first three stages where not much is going on and no real unfoldment has yet occurred, but some experience has occurred, and this can take a long time. This can take millions of years. Look, even the least developed human beings on our planet right now, who can be considered to be those who individualized in Atlantis, there's been 9 or 10 million years since that individualization occurred, maybe more, you know. So there's plenty of time for stimulation and organization of those petals to go on and for those experiences to be engaged in. But the real benefit in terms of that those qualities being able to really show themselves are not yet occurring. Let's just say if the flower, I want to say here, there are petals on the point of opening before the flower of the first tier is on the point of opening. So this stage where the first tier is opening up is already quite an achievement, and it signifies mentally a man who can think, though not necessarily be aware of the inner subjective self. So there are many stages where the second petal has to be on the point of opening, where the third petal has to be on the point of opening. Those stages are not yet discussed here. Now, the thing about the unfoldment is there's always being work done ahead while the unfolding of earlier petals is occurring. It's an overlapping process and not a rigid sequential process, which must be obvious. I mean, we're all working on ahead, thinking of things that we have not yet been able to engage in or master at any point, although some things in our life of a simpler type we have been able to master and we can demonstrate. So always we're fully capable in one point and partially capable in another, and interested but hardly capable at all in still another lying farther ahead. DK has not given us everything here, but basically he's pointed out in terms of the Egoic Lotus the last three stages, revelation, perfume, and radiance, and the first three stages, the bud, the colorless lotus, which has, of course, somewhat unfolded, or should we say it is at least visible. Let's just say that we won't call it unfoldment, we'll just say the petals are visible, but not, and small, but not colored or filled with quality. And here at point number 5, there can be color and quality. Yes, there can be color and quality, but not demonstration, which comes with unfoldment. In other words, we can work on something before we're really ready to show it and to do it in any coherent manner. We always have our aspirations, but it's not right to drag out the objective of our aspirations until there has been some degree of proficiency acquired and eventually mastery. So I hope that's I hope that's a little bit clear. Obviously, DK could have said more. These egoic lotuses are all organized and have a number of petals unfolded, while some are at the final stages of development. Well, let's see. This looks like another place that he seems to be working. and it's very interesting material. It does seem to be page 857 and ending 858. Ending TCF 858, and beginning before that, of course. So let's see. He's saying a bit more. So right here, this is coming from Cosmic Fire, and the new text is coming from Cosmic Fire, the previous text from Esoteric Psychology II. So the ones below here are all organized, and they have a number of petals unfolded. We're obviously not talking about lotuses in bud, colorless lotuses, or lotuses of closed and sealed condition. We're not talking about that. We're talking about lotuses of revelation, those in which the jewel is just about to be revealed, and let's just say, as I have said, almost fourth degree. Whoops, almost fourth initiation. Lotuses with perfume, those whose occult smell or aroma, that's a better word, isn't it, is permeating their environment, and what I want to say here is magnetically permeating their environment, magnetically and attractively permeating their environment and drawing others towards unity and cohesion, drawing others towards integration, unity, cohesion. They are those egos who have not yet completely unfolded the final tier of petals, and this hints that the lotuses of revelation have completely unfolded the third or sacrifice tier. Okay, sacrifice. But whose lives are of magnetic force in the three worlds, and whose career are distinguished by altruistic service. So we have a type of sacrifice going on at the love sacrifice petal, which would make altruistic service possible. And as I said, the complete unfoldment of the sixth petal is the objective here, and the stimulation by the rod of initiation of the eighth petal. So lotuses with perfume, I would say, as here, many members of the new group of world servers. And this is interesting because we're told that the new group of world servers should be on the outlook for those who have the, let's see, wait a second. Yeah, there we go. Should be on the outlook for those who are taking the first or second degree. So members of the servers are quite high. They actually should have taken the second degree and would be magnetic, they would be lotuses with perfume on their way towards revelation. Radiant lotuses, I just switched here out of into another mode. Radiant lotuses, or those whose light is beginning to shine into a dark place. I asked, does he mean the chakras as lights? And in a way, yes, the 7 points of light within him transmit the outward streaming radiance. And lo, the face of those upon the darkened way receives that light. And lo, their way is not so dark. Well, that's not exactly correct, but it's pretty close. So this fits with initiates of the first degree, shining their light from the hall of wisdom into darker places. And that's what initiates of the first degree do. They're told to let their light shine, and they do. And so many of us as students of occultism are exactly in that place. Okay, now I think I'm at the point where I can, yes I am, I can stop here, and let's just say that this is the end of program 1. Well, let's see. What will we call it? Egoic Lotus. We will call it Egoic Lotus Commentary. EGLC. Okay? Egoic Commentary. And this is program 1, and it is 2 hours in duration. Maybe it places a bit of a rocky start, but I'm the type who wants to get the washing machine out the door, even if it's not 100%. Maybe it's 70%, maybe it's 80%, and the feedback will come and improvements will come, and at least people will benefit from having clean clothes. I guess I began this series with Virgo rising, so my allusions to cleanliness are suitable. So that's okay. So that's number 1 and beginning of Egoic Lotus Commentary, program 2. I don't really have page numbers here because I'm not doing this with a continuous document, so we'll just have to mark these according to subject, and I don't think I'm going to spend a long time going through every detail of what is included, because when I do that, it takes a lot of time away from actually talking these books in a way that hopefully will help us understand more deeply. All right, so on we go, and I'll start with program number 2 about these lotuses. See you soon.